Houston, Texas. A quiet March afternoon. A small private clinic off Westheimer was silent, almost still, until the Ortega family walked in. Dr. Alondra Díaz, a pediatrician with over 20 years in the field and a longtime acquaintance of the family, stepped out to greet them. But from the first glance, she knew something was wrong. 14-year-old Maya kept her head down, hands twisted together, shoulders pulled in like she was trying to disappear. Every greeting, every question, met silence. All answers came from the father, Rafael Ortega. Calm, polite, too precise. "She's just been a little tired," he said. "Probably hormones, early adolescence." Dr. Díaz had Maya lie down for an exam. Her pulse was high, blood pressure low. There was some distension in the abdomen. When the doctor moved the probe across Maya's stomach, the screen lit up with something that made her hands freeze. A fetus, nearly 27 weeks, and the heartbeat was irregular. "Do you feel the baby kicking a lot?" she asked gently. Maya didn't look up. She whispered, almost like she was afraid her own ears would hear it, "It kicks when it hears his voice." Dr. Alondra Díaz couldn't take her eyes off the ultrasound screen. The fetal heartbeat was erratic, sometimes slow, sometimes fast, with gaps in between, like something was squeezing the rhythm itself. She didn't speak right away. Only one question echoed in her mind. Who's the father? But she knew she couldn't ask. Not yet. Not with the man sitting less than 10 feet away, gripping his phone tightly and watching his daughter's every movement. She turned to Rafael Ortega and offered a thin, clinical smile. "We'll need to run a few blood tests to be sure," she said. "Is that necessary?" he asked, voice cold and flat. "It absolutely is," she replied. Careful, measured. Maya looked at her for exactly 1 second. And in that single glance, Alondra saw something she had never forgotten in 22 years of practice. The eyes of a child silently screaming for help, without permission to speak. After Rafael escorted Maya to the front desk, Alondra picked up her phone and called an old colleague, OB-GYN Julia Herrera at Houston Methodist Hospital. "I need a full HCG and hormone panel," she said. "Can't you do it there?" Julia asked. "No," Alondra replied. "He controls everything." That night, Alondra pulled up Maya's old medical records. The girl had routine checkups until age 11. Then, nothing. No school transfers, no new insurance, no visits logged in the system for the past 3 years. She turned to social media. Rafael Ortega's Facebook was still active. Travel photos, work updates, a few pictures with Maya. But no wife, not a single mention, no wedding post, no anniversary. Just one line in the bio. Father first, everything else after. And right then, a message came through, from an account named Maya Cortez. Alondra read the first line and froze. "If you're treating Maya, please call me. I'm her mother." The phone number listed on Alondra Cortez's Facebook profile was disconnected. The message had gone through, but no reply came after that first chilling line. Dr. Alondra Díaz hesitated for a moment, then sent a single follow-up. "I saw Maya today. If you are her mother, please call me no matter the hour." 11:41 p.m. Her phone buzzed. She stepped quietly out of her bedroom and into the kitchen before answering. On the other end, a woman was breathing. Fast, shallow. No crying, no words, just breathing. Then, after nearly 10 seconds, a voice finally broke through, raw and hoarse, like it had clawed its way out of her chest. "I've gone to everyone, but no one believed me." Alondra began to explain. 3 years ago, after a drawn-out divorce from Rafael Ortega, she lost custody of her daughter due to unstable financial conditions. She had been working part-time at a small restaurant in Pasadena, sometimes leaving Maya with her elderly mother. In their final court hearing, Rafael brought a private attorney and presented documents showing Alondra had once sought counseling for mild depression, and that was enough. The court awarded him sole custody. Immediately after the ruling, Rafael cut all contact, blocked her number, changed schools, no trace. She hadn't seen her daughter since June 1997. The last time she saw Maya was as the girl got into her father's car, too afraid to turn around and wave. "I've filed petitions every year," Alondra said, "but no attorney will take the case. They all say he hasn't done anything illegal." At that moment, Alondra cut in. "I need you to come see me tomorrow morning. I want to talk in person, but bring everything you have, birth certificate, court papers, anything that proves you are her legal mother." After a long pause, Alondra whispered, "I have it, and I still have one of her old report cards. There's a drawing she made once, of a small bird in a cage, and in the corner she wrote, 'Mom, I'm still here.'" Alondra ended the call. The sky outside had begun to shift from black to a deep indigo. She sat in the dark for nearly an hour, not moving, not speaking, just listening to the silence. Because in that silence, one thought refused to leave her. Where is Maya? And how long has no one asked? 8:12 a.m. The clinic wasn't even open yet when Alondra Cortez showed up, clutching a thin plastic folder under one arm. Her eyes were sunken, hair pulled back hastily, sneakers coated in dust. But her posture was steady, like someone who had waited 3 years for this exact moment. Dr. Alondra Díaz let her in, locked the door behind them, and turned on a dim light. Neither woman spoke for nearly 2 minutes. Then, Alondra opened the folder and laid its contents out on the desk. Maya's birth certificate, old elementary school records, court documents, a photocopy of the 1997 custody decision, and finally, a single piece of paper colored in wax crayon. A small bird inside a cage, its wings heavily outlined again and again, and in the corner, a handwritten note. "Mom, where are you?" Alondra didn't ask anything. She simply pulled out the ultrasound image from the day before and placed it on the table. Alondra didn't speak. Her hands began to tremble. Then she covered her face, not crying aloud, just breaking silently. After a while, she looked up. "I didn't know it was this bad, but I knew something was wrong, from the moment her voice started changing when she talked to me." She explained. Back when she was still allowed weekly calls, Maya began speaking in short, robotic sentences, like she was following a script. But once, when Alondra asked, "Are you okay?" Maya replied, "I'm okay. But I'm not allowed to talk about the dream." Alondra asked, "What dream?" Alondra shook her head. "I don't know, but after that call, Raphael cut off contact completely." Later that afternoon, Alondra reopened Maya's internal file from the clinic. At the bottom of her intake form, a note had been scribbled by the intake nurse. "Patient hesitates when asked about abdominal pain. Avoids eye contact with parent." Next to it, "Stress response, possible dissociation." That same evening, Alondra contacted the Harris County Child and Family Services Center. The caseworker on the line fell silent when she heard Maya's name. Then she asked, "Current guardian listed as Rafael Ortega?" "Yes." "You said the girl is over 27 weeks pregnant?" "Yes." "And the one reporting is?" "Me, her treating physician." Another pause, then the sound of fast, urgent typing on a keyboard. Then, "I need you to send everything, today." Wednesday afternoon. Dr. Alondra Díaz closed her clinic early. No new appointments. She invited Alondra back to talk before submitting the report to Child Protective Services. This time, Alondra brought something she never imagined handing over to another person. Maya's old phone, found by chance in a box while cleaning out her late mother's house. The phone had no SIM card. Its screen was cracked, barely functional except when plugged in. But in the photo folder, beneath a set of deleted and recovered files were images time-stamped nearly 2 years earlier. Some were blurry, but one was crystal clear. Maya's thin arm on a wooden floor, a long dark bruise stretching across her wrist. In the corner of the frame, the edge of a man's brown leather shoe. Another photo showed Maya in the bathroom mirror, her eyes puffy, hair matted, a reddish mark across her forehead like an impact. But it wasn't Maya's reflection that caught Alondra's eye. It was what was behind her, the blurred figure of a man walking past, holding what looked like a belt. Alondra immediately exported the files to an encrypted USB and called Lisa Moreno, a special investigator with Harris County CPS. Lisa's voice was sharp. "We'll need forensics to verify the metadata, but if these are real and the timestamps hold, we can request a home search warrant within 48 hours. That night, after Alejandra had left, Alondra sat alone in her office. She reopened a file she had drafted a week earlier, a short medical journal she kept after Maya's first visit. The last line read, "Eyes that see no exit. Heart rate spikes when father speaks. Not reflex, memory." And then her phone lit up. A text from an unknown number, no name. One line, "Dr. Lady, if I send more pictures, will you believe me? Thursday afternoon." Maya returned to the clinic with her father. Rafael Ortega waited in the lobby as usual while Maya was taken into a private room. But this time, Dr. Alondra was prepared. A nurse stood guard outside, the internal camera system was discreetly activated, and the CPS report had already been submitted earlier that morning. As soon as the door closed, Maya said nothing. Instead, she reached into her backpack and pulled out a small folded paper. Inside was a hand-drawn map of her house with a red arrow pointing behind the staircase. Next to the arrow, in uneven block letters, "Small door under, broken lock." Dr. Alondra asked, "Has anyone else ever gone down there?" Maya shook her head. "When did you draw this?" "A while ago. I don't remember." Then she whispered, barely audible, "It's cold down there, and dark, but there's a light and a camera." The next morning, at 10 a.m., Harris County Child Protective Services and local law enforcement arrived at the Ortega residence with an emergency protection and search order. Rafael was not home. Maya was there with the housekeeper, who later testified she never knew there was a room under the stairs, as she was never allowed to clean the lower floor at night. Behind the staircase, concealed behind a fabric cabinet, they found a small hatch door, unlocked, leading into a shallow underground crawl space. Inside the room, no larger than 12 square feet, hung a single bare light bulb. Chains had once been bolted to the wall. In one corner, an old ceiling-mounted camera, long since disabled. On the ground, among dust and scattered fragments, they found a broken children's digital watch, its face cracked, its hands frozen at 2:13. But the most chilling discovery was on the wall. A small handprint pressed into the concrete, and beside it, a line written in charcoal, "Don't let him hear you." That night, Maya was taken for psychological evaluation at a protective youth center. She didn't cry, didn't speak much, but before going to sleep, she handed a piece of paper to one of the counselors. One sentence, written in neat, shaky handwriting. "The doctor said she would believe me. Does she now?" 2 days after being taken into protective custody, Maya began to speak. Not through a formal statement, but through the first audio recording made by her trauma counselor during a quiet evening session. She didn't sit across from anyone, she didn't make eye contact. She simply lay on her side, eyes fixed on the ceiling, her voice steady, quiet, unbroken. "At first, he said it was a game, but every time I said I didn't like it, he made me write it down. He'd say, 'Right, I want to stay here.' I had to write it hundreds of times. If I messed up, he'd rip the page. Sometimes he made me stand in the corner for hours. I wasn't allowed to ask about Mom. Not allowed to ask if she was coming back." The counselor transcribed every word. Later, when asked if Maya would be willing to draw the basement room, she nodded. The sketch was of a small square space, empty, with a ceiling light. In the corner, a chair. On the chair sat a faceless man. No features, just a torso, 2 arms, and a long shadow. Next to him, Maya, drawn smaller, curled up against the wall. At the bottom of the paper, she wrote one sentence. "I don't remember sounds. Only a dream with no voice." Afterward, Maya asked to rest. She said she was tired. But before leaving the session, she turned and asked a question that froze the adults in the room. "If you dream something, does that mean it really happened?" The counselor didn't answer. She only wrote in her report, signs of sleep disorder, psychological trauma consistent with long-term behavioral control, dream-reality boundary blurred, common in sustained abuse victims. That same afternoon, police issued an official warrant for the arrest of Rafael Ortega. Preliminary charges: aggravated child abuse, unlawful confinement, and concealment of a minor's legal identity. But he wasn't home, wasn't at work, his phone was off, and the last thing Maya said before sleeping that night was, "He always said, if I told anyone, he would disappear like he never existed." Monday morning, a joint task force with digital forensics officers entered Rafael Ortega's residence under an active warrant. The house, located in the western suburbs of Houston, was locked, surveillance cameras offline, no signs of forced entry, no one inside. In a private study room, sealed by a fingerprint lock that had been disabled from the inside, they found his personal workspace. On the desk, an old Lenovo laptop, scratched casing, USB ports sealed with tamper tape. The hard drive was removed and rushed to the Houston Police Department's digital lab. After nearly 6 hours of decryption, one folder remained intact, titled Study, Reference, Archive. Inside were 36 video files, low resolution, no audio. Most were recorded in a dimly lit, enclosed space. A single ceiling-mounted camera pointed down toward a wooden chair, where a child, confirmed to be Maya, sat motionless. In the first video, Maya wore a school uniform, hands resting on her lap, eyes unblinking for nearly 18 minutes. No words, no movement, just a still frame, like a portrait. In the fourth clip, she sat turned away, head tilted slightly. A figure passed through the corner of the frame. No face visible, but the shirt pattern, khaki pants, and gait matched photos Rafael had once posted on Facebook in 1999. Video 11 made the technician stop. Maya curled up on the floor, flickering light above her, one hand raised as if shielding her eyes. There was no audio, but her face said everything. Terror. The forensic report confirmed. The footage was recorded between 1998 and 2001, stored across multiple devices, but left unedited. Each file was marked with a timestamp, each entry carefully logged by Rafael himself, and at the end of the folder, one text file remained. Its name, Reminders for Control. Inside, a list of commands and notes. Don't let her read books with moms. Repeat, Mom left you. Replace alarm sounds with recordings of my voice. Turn off TV if the scenes of family reunions appear. The investigation report concluded, the guardian employed sustained psychological conditioning, using isolation, emotional manipulation, and recorded surveillance to exert control over a minor. That night, Maya said nothing. But when a staff member quietly read her the final notes from the file, she responded with a single sentence. I don't remember everything, but he never let me forget. April 21st, 11:17 p.m. A call came into the Harris County emergency line. The voice was male, calm, no name given. He said, if you're still looking for Mr. Ortega, check the old Emmanuel Church. The back door's unlocked. Then he hung up. Police traced the location to the abandoned Emmanuel Episcopal Church on the outskirts of Katy, Texas, decommissioned in 1995, long since unused. When the response team arrived, they found the sanctuary lights still on, despite the building having no active power. Inside, Rafael Ortega sat alone in the front pew. White shirt, hands on his lap, no phone, no documents, no belongings. When Special Officer Lisa Moreno approached and read the arrest warrant, he didn't resist. He didn't speak at first. Then he lifted his head, made direct eye contact, the first true emotional display in the entire investigation, and said only, not everyone is chosen to be remembered. After being handcuffed and escorted out, Ortega said nothing more. But inside the transport van he left behind a folded scrap of paper tucked beneath the seatbelt. It read, there's a room where no explanation matters. If you find it, don't repeat it. The next day, police conducted a second search of Ortega's house, this time focusing behind the ground floor fireplace, where a section of drywall looked freshly patched. Behind it, they discovered a small metal lockbox embedded in the bricks. Inside, 12 cassette tapes, no labels, just numbers, 01 to 12. Investigators had to use vintage audio equipment to play them. Each tape contained Raphael's voice, reading daily journal entries, long monologues interrupted by deliberate silences. Some recordings sounded like he was speaking directly to Maya while she slept. At the end of tape 12, his voice slowed, measured, quiet. If one day you remember this. I once believed holding someone close was how not to be left behind. But now I understand. Some things, the tighter you hold them, the more you vanish. 2 months after Rafael Ortega's arrest, the first hearing was held at the Harris County Criminal Court. Maya didn't attend, but her legal team submitted a special petition to have the name Ortega removed from her birth certificate. It wasn't about changing guardianship. It was about erasing a name, a shadow, from the official documents Maya would carry for the rest of her life. The judge asked, "On what grounds is the petition made?" The lawyer read a line handwritten by Maya. "I don't want anyone to call him my father. Not in papers, not in memory, not out loud." The story made it into local media. No photos, no voice clips, just a drawing Maya had once submitted at the shelter, a sketch of a windowless room, and on the wall a single line. "Someone used to be here, but no one remembers the name." At the trauma unit, Maya was moved into a specialized care program. She never asked about the hearing, never mentioned Raphael again. But during one final counseling session she was asked, "If you ever saw him again, what would you say?" She paused for nearly 30 seconds, then answered, "I wouldn't call him anything." The counselor wrote in the file, "No desire for confrontation, no request for forgiveness, just silence." Rafael Ortega never confessed. But the videos, the recordings, the hard drive, they rendered all defenses meaningless. The trial date was set for late that year, with 7 felony charges, including abuse, unlawful confinement, and psychological manipulation of a minor. But Maya didn't wait for the verdict. On December 3rd, she officially changed her name, taking her mother's surname, Maya Cortez. And on the enrollment form for her new school, the line for father's name was left blank. Not crossed out, not replaced, just left blank. Because for some names, silence is the loudest answer. 7 months after the final hearing, Maya, now legally Maya Cortez, returned to her old house. The property was still sealed off, but by law she was allowed a one-time supervised entry to collect any remaining personal belongings. She didn't bring a backpack, didn't bring her mother, just a youth services worker and a female officer. The front door opened with the old key. The house was silent, dust-covered, frozen, like time had stopped the moment Rafael Ortega left. Maya didn't walk into the bedroom, didn't look at the kitchen. She went straight to the staircase, turned left, knelt down, and opened the small hatch beneath. The crawl space was still there. No camera, no chair, no chains, just bare walls, concrete, and cold air. She stood at the threshold. Didn't step in, just looked. No trembling, no tears. Only a long breath, the kind you take when time has to let go of you before you can let go of it. The caseworker asked, "Is there anything you want to take with you?" Maya shook her head. "No. If anything in here used to be mine, it isn't anymore." The handprint was still on the wall, the faint charcoal letters still visible. "Don't let him hear you." Maya turned away, didn't touch a thing, didn't look back, and as she stepped through the doorway, she spoke. Softly, not to anyone in particular, maybe not even to herself, but loud enough for them all to hear. "I don't need to take anything. I just need to know that this time, I walked out on my own." There's no sentence that can undo what happened. No amount of time that can erase the imprint of a child's hand on concrete. No words that can fully describe a room where no one speaks, and no authority that can honestly say, Maya is okay now. But sometimes justice doesn't arrive in a courtroom. It arrives when a child walks out of an old door and doesn't lower her head. It arrives when a name is left blank on a form, and no one tries to fill it in. This wasn't a story about a monster. It was a story about what happens when every adult stops noticing. A doctor almost overlooked it. The school never asked. The neighbors didn't hear, and the system, as always, showed up late. We can't undo what Maya lived through, but we can make sure other children don't have to wait as long in silence. That if someone sees, hears, or believes, then even a whisper can save a life. Maybe that's what Maya never said out loud. But what we need to remember, sometimes one person believing is enough.